This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Hey, what's up and welcome to Hot Takes, the video where I react to your hot takes for the week. So let's just jump into it and get to these hot takes, man. We had a lot of them. Browns did a lot. They added Tyler Huntley and the Steelers traded for Justin Fields. Y'all had some takes for that one, man. It'll be interesting to see what Fields can do in a stable, non-dumpster fire organization. I think Russell is cooked. Might be able to squeeze a season or two before the Steelers release him as well. I think Russell, he's 35. He is in that class of quarterbacks where you look at like an Andy Dalton or Joe Flacco where you might get a run out of them. But as far as getting a full season, I think that's not going to happen, right? Like, I think Russ is done. Russ is done giving you full seasons, right? The same way Cam was done when he was like 32. I think it's a similar thing with Russ. And Justin, again, I'll be transparent here. I wasn't the highest on him as a prospect coming out of Ohio State. So I don't really think that the situation he was in Chicago really changes much about how I feel about Justin Fields. I think he still has the same limitations as a prospect that he's always had. And I would question whether Pittsburgh right now is, while they are a stable organization, is that a good situation for him when there's guys going in and out of that locker room? They just had to ship Deontay Johnson out of there and Kenny Pickett because of, quasi locker room issues. And then you're going in there where they brought in Russ, who has been deemed toxic. And this is an environment where guys are pretty frustrated that they keep hitting their head on that 10-win ceiling there. So, I wonder what it could be. I can see the upside of Justin Fields and why people be excited, but Justin Fields also has a skill set that requires some forward thinking on the offensive side of the ball. And Pittsburgh and their offenses have been the furthest thing from forward thinking almost of any team in the NFL. So I question whether they're going to be able to be the ones to figure that out. Right, because I don't know if they got the right people to figure that out in Pittsburgh, because we've seen what Randy Finkner has done. We've seen what Matt Canada has done. These are guys who are supposed to, be the hot young thinker for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I question their ability to figure it out offensively, because schematically they haven't been much better than Chicago's been with Justin Fields. So I don't know why it would change so much on that side of the ball. Next comment comes from the Browns, who lost free agency. The players on the roster who are the biggest losers in free agency. My guy JL says, with Jack Conklin's situation, I see a world where they start Jack Conklin early in camp, pretty much expecting him to get hurt or fall off of his game, knowing Jones is right there ready to step in. I feel like they are really worried about it because they know the numbers. Conklin's most likely going to miss significant time. Yeah, I think this is something that you could play out on paper, but I don't think you want to give DeJuan Jones the feeling that he's being demoted for playing well simply because Jack Conklin's there. Like, DeJuan Jones fell in the draft because people were worried about how he handles situations like that. And I don't know if it would be the best situation to throw him in a situation like that and then expect him to kind of step up and play well. Like, I think you got a good thing going with DeJuan Jones. Keep that good thing going. There's really no reason to risk it because I don't see Jack Conklin's play at this point being better than DeJuan Jones. And at this point, it's fair to ask, like, is Jack Conklin even capable of being better than what DeJuan Jones was last year? And if he's not the best player, why should he play or start over somebody who's younger, bigger, and better? That's my one question there. When you just talk about how this is actually going to play out, you got to think about that too. Maybe Jack Conklin could take Nick Harris's role. No, there's no shot, dog. There's no shot. Jack Conklin, that is a young man's game. What Nick Harris did last year is something that you only do when you trying to make the roster. And Jack Conklin has made too much money to be out here doing that kind of stuff, right? Like that's something that you're going to get. You might be able to tell Luke Whippler to do or something like that, like some late round pick. Drew Forbes might be willing to do that. But Jack Conklin, somebody who's been an all-pro who could retire tomorrow and not really miss anything, he ain't gonna do that. He ain't got to do that. He won't do that. And that's no shot to his character. That's just, that's smart. Like you've gotten to a point where you don't got to do that. You shouldn't do that. Browns finally signed a running back. It's about the Browns signing Deonta Foreman over the free agency period. Matt Fulmer says Sheeks. Ford gets no love at all. Dude scored 9 touchdowns plus 2 extra points, tied the team for the lead, and had the longest touchdown run and third longest receiving touchdown of the season. I don't think it's that Ford doesn't get love. I just think Jerome Ford belongs in a role. That's fine, right? Just because a player has showed some promise does not mean that player is going to be the absolute best version of the position that he plays. He's not a feature back, but what he is a pretty damn good rotational back. Like he's somebody who could take some carries. He's somebody who can be there in there in third down. Like once Nick Chubb gets the full speed, I expect him and Chubb to really split the load. And I think that's going to be a pretty formidable role for him, right? He's a good receiving back. He's maybe not the short yardage back that Kareem Hunt is, but he's a better receiver than Kareem Hunt was. And I think he has more explosive potential to break big runs than Kareem Hunt did. So yeah, I think he's a good running back. I just think the role that he was asked to fill last year as the feature back is one that was too big for him, especially at his current size. He's just not the size of a feature back. He's like 210 and feature backs are usually like 230. Like if you don't believe me, the next time the Browns have public training camp practice, go there, look at Jerome Ford, and then watch and look at him next to like Deonta Foreman or Nick Chubb and notice how much more slight he is than those two. And that'll just tell you why he's not a feature back. Maybe if he adds those pounds to his frame, he's able to break more tackles, then he can be fine. But as of right now, he's a third down back, and I think that's fine. He was a 5th round pick. If he ends up being a solid third down back, that's a win with the 5th round pick. That's a major win with the 5th round pick. Don says Chubb is not going to be ready to play until the regular season starts. He won't be the same before the injury. He won't be ready to play. Deonta Foreman is insurance in case Chubb is not ready. I feel like we're doing this thing where we haven't heard news about Nick Chubb, so we're just assuming it's bad. Look, sometimes no news is no news, and I think we would be better off instead of speculating that he's going to miss, because I've heard people say he's going to be on PUP list for 8 weeks. Like, let's just wait and see what the actual update is with Nick Chubb. None of us know what his actual timeline is. None of us know when he's coming back. I will wait for an update from Chubb and where he's at. I imagine he's attacking the rehab pretty hard. I remember when Andrew Berry was talking about it on a podcast, he was saying that Nick Chubb was walking earlier than anybody expected him to walk, so that it would assume that he's doing well in recovery. Again, I think people are just assuming that no news is bad news. I don't think no news is good news. I just think no news is no news. And I think we should probably just wait and see until these players have to report in the spring for an update. And then we'll have a better picture in May. But I wouldn't assume that he's not going to be healthy, because Deonta Foreman has a clear role on this team. If Nick Chubb's healthy or if Nick Chubb's not, I don't think this indicates anything about what Nick Chubb's status is with the team or if he'll be healthy for the start of the season. Don Badger says Chubb is okay. I already read that one. The next one is from 2024 is do or die for DeShaun Watson and Jerry Jeudy. My guy Bone Lynch says DeShaun can play exactly like he did last year, minus the injuries, and they win a bowl because the defense is going to go that crazy. This is the interesting point that I think is going to be a major talking point amongst Browns fans, especially in juxtaposed to national media members. Because right now, the national media is assuming that the Cleveland Browns are going to be a worse team simply because DeShaun Watson is coming back. Now, if your argument is DeShaun Watson is so bad that he's going to hold back this team and they can't win with them, the numbers don't support that argument. Not from last year, not even from the year where he played objectively worse in 2022, where they were 3-3, and before DeShaun Watson got there, they were below 500. Last year, they won 4 of the 5 games that he played more than a quarter in. They won those games by a point differential of plus 63. And one of those games was on the road against Baltimore when he had suffered a high ankle sprain and a broken shoulder, a broken throwing shoulder. And he went 14 of 14 in the second half. There's nothing that indicates to me or anybody that simply him being healthy is going to be a negative to this team. Honestly, what points to me as being the case is like, hey, if he's healthy and he doesn't play spectacular, there'll be a team with a plus 63 point differential, and that's good enough to win your division, right? Kansas City had a plus 63 point differential. Now, they weren't number 1 in the AFC last year. Baltimore was at like 122, but plus 63 is good. You can win your division with plus 63. And that brings me to my original point about how narratives work. Because if that does happen, right, and the defense is the main story, despite that being the case last year when it happened with Joe Flacco, right, we all, at this point, he's not on the team no more, we can admit it. The defense was why the team went 11-6. Joe Flacco helped, and it was a great story, but the defense was the reason you could do all of this stuff. And when the defense had a bad game, you lost, no matter who the quarterback was. When the defense had a good game, you won, no matter who the quarterback was last year. It was all dependent on the defense. So if that becomes the case this year, it's going to be interesting to see people who gave Joe Flacco all the credit for spectacular defensive performances, despite turning the ball over multiple times, give Joe Flacco credit for games, or, you know, maybe whoever they want to give credit for those games, and then go to the whole DeShaun Watson's being carried narrative. That's going to be interesting to see who goes to that, because that's the thing that I don't understand that people aren't going to with the Cleveland Browns. A lot of this is about if you think DeShaun Watson is good or not. I don't think it matters as much as people make it out to be. I think DeShaun Watson's fine. I think he'll be above average. I think there's a chance he could be really good this year. There's also a chance that he's just average. A significant chance that he's just average. It's both on the table, whether he could be really good or average. Either way, this team's going to be really good because their strength is the defense. And as long as they don't lead the league in turnovers again, as long as they don't have to switch out the quarterback 9 times again, as long as they can avoid all of those things, they'll probably be a better team just because the quarterback's not changing out. Just because they're not turning the ball over a ton. Because that defense put up the numbers that they did in spite of having some of the most adversity of any team. They had 4 pick sixes last year. 5 more plays were like close to pick sixes last year, or fumble sixes. This defense was constantly put in horrible situations and bailed this Browns team out time in and time again. If the offense is just decent and they don't put that defense in that situation, how you look at this team is just much different. So, yeah, I mean, we could have beat the Houston Texans in that playoff game if the quarterback position didn't completely implode in the third quarter, right? If we don't throw back-to-back pick sixes, the Browns have a real shot to win that game. But that happened. So I just think how people talk about this team is interesting because they act as if it's quarterback dependent when it's convenient. But then when it's convenient to take credit away from the quarterback, they suddenly shift to what the reality is, which is this is just a really damn good roster. And it's funny when people choose to live in one reality versus the other. But that's something to watch. Thank you for the question. The next video is, why are they so mad about Jerry Jeudy's money? Tribe of Judah says, I remember Randy Moss was on the Raiders and Wes Welker on the Dolphins, both stats worse than Jeudy in Denver. Moss and Welker went to the right situation, went off with the Cowboys. Other teams thought Cooper was washed. The Browns got Cooper for nothing. Jeudy was open a lot in Denver with the average quarterback play. Yeah, I think the Browns think there's upside there. I think they felt like, hey, we'll gamble and say we'll pay for a 900-yard receiver or a 1,000-yard receiver. Right now you aren't, but you're close, but you aren't. So we'll slightly overpay for what you have done so far because we think there is a good chance that you can completely murder the value of this contract by, getting 1,200 yards or something like that. So, yeah, I think that's what the thought process was with Jerry Jeudy. It's always better to get a player from a situation that he hated than like snatch a player unexpectedly from a situation that he loved, because you're taking a player from an absolute fit to a non-fit. In this situation, you're taking him from a non-fit to a better fit, and it's just going to be a better environment for him to succeed. But that's it for your hot takes. I thank you guys all for watching this video. Make sure you hit subscribe, hit that like button. Peace.